Now, believe it or not, reducing your expenses by around 25% is a massive deal. Because in America, the average person is living paycheck to paycheck, so there is no room for savings, and the average savings rates is literally less than 5%. So by me making a video about a way for you to actually minimize or reduce your expenses by 25%, which basically allow you to 5x your savings rates, is going to be a massive deal when it comes to completing certain factors to financial freedom, like paying off debt, building an emergency account, and doing everything else, okay? But for the most part, I truly do believe that this video is not for everyone. There are people that are just fine with mediocrity. Now, I'm not saying that people that are in a season of not being able to save are mediocre, because hey, it's okay. Sometimes you're in a place where there's not a lot of room for savings and you're working yourself out of that. But if you just don't want to be uncomfortable, you don't want to get rid of things you don't need, you don't want to reduce your expenses just because, then that is mediocrity. And if you're not willing to change that, then most likely this video is not for you. Because obviously, to be able to reduce your expenses, there is going to be a level of commitment and there is going to be a level of pain. Now, do me a favor and smash the like button if that sounds good to you. And if you guys don't know me, my name is TommyBryson. Now, the very first thing, guys, I actually want to show you is something called the fulfillment curve. Now, the fulfillment curve is meant to show you one thing, but I want to take this one thing and show you another perspective of it. Now, the fulfillment curve basically shows you in the very beginning, when you're spending money on things, you get a lot more fulfillment out of it. When you're just surviving, when you're just comfortable, when you actually reach a point of enough and you spend money on things, you get a lot of fulfillment. You get a lot of happiness out of it in a sense. But at a certain level, it doesn't matter how much money you spend, you stop to get the fulfillment out of it. You stop to get the fulfillment factor. It's like that study that was basically done that showed that once you make past $75,000 a year, you actually don't get happier with the things you could potentially spend money on for the most part. And by the way, that's something I did not believe until I made more than that, and more than that, and more than that. And I was like, yeah, this is pretty accurate. But it's one of those things you only know after the point. But my point is not to talk about fulfillment and money in this way and spending more money and happiness. That's not the point of this video. The point is, I want to use these 3 cycles in life. And I call it the survival cycle, the comfort cycle, and the enough cycle / luxury cycle, okay? In this video, I'm actually going to break each of them down and show you exactly how to reduce your expenses the most based on the factor or the cycle that you're actually in currently. Now, I want you guys to actually tell me exactly what part of the cycle do you actually think you're actually in. Are you in the survival cycle, in the comfort cycle, or in the enough cycle? And by the way, in all honesty, I don't think it actually matters what you actually think, and that sounds rude, but I really do mean it. And here's why. There are a lot of people that you tell them and you show them they actually have a problem and they just don't accept it. They think everything is fine. So that's why I've made this a mathematical issue instead of a feeling issue. I don't feel like I'm actually surviving. I make a good amount of money. I make like $100K a year. I have enough money for the most part, and I can basically just do whatever I want to do. I go on vacation. I buy this, I buy that. But for the most part, I make good money. I'm fine, right, Tommy? The answer is no. You might be in survival mode. And that's what you don't know, because you're judging your cycle based on your income, and that's not the point. So here are different cycles, and I'm going to address them and give you guys all the details, so this way you know exactly where you actually fall. So how do you know if you are supposed to be in their survival factor? And based on the factor that you actually are in, that's based on how much more money that you're actually going to be setting aside and trying to save to achieve every single task within each cycle. Basically saying the survival cycle has some factors and some goals you need to achieve that are going to require you to make more sacrifices to use your income to complete those factors. That is the idea, right? So the later the more wealthy you get in a sense, and the more advanced you get in the cycles, the less money in a sense you actually need to save, and the more you can actually enjoy. However, here's a fun fact. the more successful you usually get, the less money you tend to spend. And it sounds weird because as far as like a ratio, because what it takes to become successful is usually understanding the value of money. And the value of money is not what it can buy you, it's basically the freedom it can actually provide you for your personal life to actually do the things that you actually care about the most. Which means that whenever you do spend your money on getting those things you actually wanted when you were broke, you tend to think, hey, maybe I don't want to buy $100,000 car because that's just stupid, okay? That tends to happen a lot, so be very careful. But the survival factor is this. How do you know you're supposed to be in survival mode right now? The answer is if you have any consumer debt and you yet don't have a fully funded emergency account of at least 3 to 6 months of your monthly expenses. That is the idea. So let's say, Tommy, I make a lot of money. I make like 200 grand a year, which is okay, good stuff. But do you have credit card debt? Do you still have student loan debt? You still have personal loan debt? Are you in debt? If the answer is yes, you are in survival mode. You are not in, I have enough money so I can spend all my money on luxuries and I can go on vacations. The answer is no. You're supposed to be on a budget. You're supposed to be basically not doing all those things, right? So what are you supposed to be doing in this factor? The answer is you're supposed to be getting out of debt. And then once you're done with getting out of debt, you're supposed to be basically building a 3 to 6 month emergency account. That is the core idea. So what do you spend your money on when you're actually in the survival mode? The answer is going to be shelter, utilities, groceries, and transportation. And that's basically it. If you want to be super extreme, that is what you're supposed to be spending your money on. Nothing else. But for the most part, I always say it can be like super shocking for someone to actually do that. So I always say grab like 5% of your income and use that to have fun and to get some of the things you actually want to get. You know, whether it's I want to get Netflix, I want to have this, I want to have that, okay? I want to go out to eat every now and then, right? So having like 5% of your income just for that. But it allows you, once you cut everything else out, to have a huge chunk of money to attack the debt. And once you're completed with that, to then go ahead and basically save up for an emergency fund. Now, are you supposed to clear off all the debt? The answer is no. You can still have a mortgage at this point. But now, how do you know when you've actually reached comfort mode? And comfort mode is when you can actually say, I can basically set aside 5 to 10% of my income to actually have fun and enjoy myself. And that could mean that you can start going on vacations and do all those things you actually want. But you know, you never actually reach a point, at least in the comfort mode, where you can just randomly go ahead and spend an extra $5,000 on some nonsense, okay? Because you do need to be aware that you might be comfortable, but it does not mean you're super wealthy. So how do you know you're in the comfort mode? Well, obviously you have no debt, you have a fully funded emergency account, but now your main focus is going to be on investing 10 to 20% for your retirement account and also saving up to actually buy a home that you can afford to buy. Now, my formula is simple. You don't spend more than 33% of your monthly income on a 15-year mortgage, okay? So when you buy a home, you buy it with this formula and it allows you to buy a home you can actually afford to pay super quickly. Now this means that most likely, because you're only investing 10 to 20%, because the home is only a third of your monthly income, and because you still have a restricted budget overall and you only spend 5 to 10% on fun, it means usually you still have some money left over. You use that money to pay off the home faster, so this way you're done. Now, the comfort part takes the longest to complete. That's why it's so important you enjoy it. That's why it's so important you take 5 to 10% to enjoy your life, because you could be paying off this mortgage for like 10 to 15 years literally, not counting the time it can take you to save up a 10 to 20% down payment, which is also very important, right? So when you reach this point, enjoy the ride, but you only get to enough and to luxury once your investments can basically cover your expenses, and this usually happens once you've paid off the mortgage. So then that's when you can say, I can spend a lot more money. So you can have a paid off home now. You can have your investments that you continue to invest at 10 to 20%, okay? And then you just have a bunch of money left over, which you can use to buy things. Now, I gotta be honest with you guys, okay? I've changed my mind a lot on this topic. Not changed my mind a lot, but I changed my mind on this topic. And it's to basically equate success with the ability to buy things. I don't see success as me being able to buy a fancy car or have a fancy house or be able to buy this and buy that and go on this vacation and go on that vacation, because at the end of the day, that just boils down to being a consumer and just basically spending money on things that you really don't get any joy from. But it comes down to enjoyment for me, and the happiness for me goes into play, and being able to deposit my time in the things that I get the most value and the most enjoyment from. And for me, that's going to be family, that's going to be relationships, that's going to be my church, that's going to be my values, it's going to be the things I enjoy the most. And obviously, yes, you go on vacations. Yes, you might be able to buy something you want or whatever, but I don't think success is going to be me having a house filled with things I don't need and me having the latest iPhone every single year. I just don't see success that way anymore. So yes, in order to actually reduce your monthly expenses by 25%, you're going to have to first establish what class or in what cycle are you actually in. Are you in the survival cycle? Are you in the comfort cycle? Or are you in the enough cycle? And if you are in the enough cycle, well, congratulations. That is awesome. But most people are not. So to lower your expenses, you're going to have to get down to your bare bone budget. And that comes down to just paying for shelter, utilities, groceries, transportation. Now, what if, Tommy, I've done that? And what if I'm still not saving 25% of my income because my home is so expensive, because my car payment and all this stuff? You just have to know what it's going to take. Now, me personally, I'm a big fan of Dave Ramsey, but what I personally say, for the next 3 years, I'm going to buckle down and I'm going to work from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m., from 5 p.m. to 10 p.m. in the name of paying off my debt super fast and getting done with it. The answer is no. I wouldn't, okay? Because there are things that are actually more valuable, like the time you spend with your family, the time you spend with like your friends and everything else. And it's not being irresponsible or saying like I'm not focused on things I'm supposed to be focused on. The answer is you might just get there when you do the math. If you do it like that and you go gazelle intense, you might get there, for example, like 2 years earlier or 3 years earlier. While if you take your time, it can take a little longer, but you still get to enjoy life in a sense. And I don't mean enjoy life by spending money, but I mean enjoy life by depositing value into your family. And that's going to equate to time. But that's like a personal decision that you got to make for yourself, but I just wouldn't be willing to pay the price. So for me personally, if I find myself where I'm spending like 80% of my money because my cost of living is so high overall, even once I cut everything out, I would be considering, hey, I could potentially downgrade. I could go from living in this house, which is a 3-bedroom, 2-bathroom house, to living in a 2-bedroom where I have 2-3 kids sleeping in 1 bedroom. Kids will be kids, okay? And they can stay there, and that's fine. It's going to be like a fun memory for them in a way. But I wouldn't say, I'm going to keep this house and I'm going to go crazy working for 3 years, because you don't know if you're going to work yourself into an early grave. So these are all qualifiers that you really need to consider that most people actually don't. And that's why this is a serious thing, okay? So for the most part, yes, it's possible to reduce your expenses by 25%, and that can happen tomorrow just by you basically cutting out a lot of your bills. And some people actually choose to just increase their income and save that, but then you're trading your time for money, and that is never an equal exchange for the most part. But guys, that's it for this video. If you want more, watch another video here. Thanks for watching, and peace. Let me know if you agree, by the way, in the comments down below.